Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about games that have been in the center of controversy or discussion because of its very explicit slash disturbing content. So anyways, without further ado, let's just get straight into this because yes. Boy.exe. Boy.exe was a game that originated on 4chan back in 2012. The gameplay was simple, with you as a character having to traverse a creepy looking maze and find the exit. Now, it wasn't really that interesting because there really was no exit and there was no purpose to the game, so the player would just eventually log off. Now, in the maze, you could occasionally come across pictures of Satan and demonic stuff, but there was really nothing else. Just an edgy game, and everything was normal until another user decided to mess with the files of the game to add a rat or a remote access Trojan virus and repost it back onto 4chan. Now, whoever clicked on the link and played the game will receive a very powerful Trojan virus which allowed the creator to access personal details of whoever played the game. The hacker then actually started posting images of him hijacking webcams and messing around with people, and according to some admins on 4chan, entire bank accounts were compromised. Now, there's really zero information about the hacker. He stayed anonymous the entire time while this was all happening. Basically, no one found out who he was. There was no reason for whatever happened, and the game was simply just made to add a Trojan virus and grab all your personal items and disguising it as a random game. So, around 14 years later, after all of that was away, a French YouTuber managed to find the original Lost Boy.exe game and the original developer for the game. Now, the entire thing is in French, so that's a big bummer, but someone made a summary of the entire thing, so I'm gonna summarize the summary of it. So, the YouTuber in question found the original lostboy.exe, the original version, the safe and clean version, and he managed to find the developer who called themselves Rob, who had allegedly posted screenshots of lostboy.exe in GameMaker Studio. Now, the YouTuber, which is named Feldup, managed to get an interview with Rob, where Rob explained that the only reason he really made the game was to just be edgy. And that's basically it. The original game was not a virus, didn't have a rat, didn't have nothing, but a furry roleplay group that had been banned from some I am not making this up. It is that's the only reason the entire rat thing happened. Which sounds pretty crazy. Like I thought it was pretty crazy. Fun. Fun is a game that was released back in 2013 on a website called IndieDB. When you first entered the game, you're greeted with a text reading, "This game was made by a demented person. It's not going to help you. Be careful and have fun." In which the game teleports you to a red room with some pretty morbid audio. Now, in the red room, you encounter some text which tells a pretty small story, basically saying that when he was younger, he always wanted to all the girls in the school. And then goes on to saying that his father killed himself, and that after he killed himself, he killed his mother and her. And it ends with him saying that it was fun. The game then takes you down a hole in which you encounter a picture of a woman completely naked and beheaded with a text saying, "Hello, Mom," inciting you to touch the picture. And when you do touch the picture, you get taken to another room with an entity called Mom. And basically, all you do is do horrible stuff to the mother and say horrible stuff to her, in which the game cuts to her body laying on the ground with some text reading. If you click on the mother, you get teleported into a white room with some text reading, "Are you a psychopath? Want to see something?" In which you have two options, which is either yes or yes. Any one of those choices takes you to a room with some of the worst images you could probably look at. There is real gore in the images, and I can't even begin to explain what the images are. And after that, the game basically ends. There's really zero information about the creator. Like, nothing. No deep secret, no nothing. Now, apparently, he has a YouTube channel and actually uploads sort of often, and surprisingly, the game is still up and you can still play it to this day, but like, don't. You know what else is up? A full gameplay video on YouTube of the full game, showing uncensored gore images and some pretty morbid stuff in 177. For those who don't know, 177 is actually the police code in Japan for a rape of a minor, which is exactly what the game is about. 177 is a Japanese game released back in 1986 by a company named DB Soft. In the game, players take the role of a rapist, chasing down a woman in what seems like a field and then just forcing yourself upon a young woman in a cutscene. And what makes this a lot more disgusting is the ending of the games. If you quote unquote don't bring pleasure, you get a bad ending and thrown in prison. But if you quote unquote give pleasure, you marry the young woman and just what the fuck? When it came out, obviously everyone hated it, many saying it was a game targeted towards kids, which was kind of true. In Japan, you could just walk in and buy an adult game even as a kid. And this eventually caught wind of the Japanese government, with many people proposing to ban the game as well, as the entire genre of bishoujo, which is basically a genre of erotic games focusing on young women. And so the game was recalled, but then later put back on sale with a tamer version of the game. Now, when 177 was initially released, there was no quote-unquote pleasure during the act, only quote-unquote power. Once the player's power was high enough, they got taken to a screen showing a woman mutilated with a text which read, "You had your way with her, now you must do this to any other woman in real life. Your sisters, your girlfriend's, even stranger." Police discovered the second photo was of a cold case from 2 months ago where a young woman from Tokyo's outskirts was found dead. A lot of people then said that this game was just trying to promote this type of behavior, something like this. And what's even crazier is that there is like zero information about the developer of the game, Macadamia. And what's even crazier is that apparently a month before 177 was released, the exact same company and developer released another game called 225, which was about a pedophile kidnapping and just murdering a child. Now, the people behind Macadamia, the game's creator, were basically Japanese ultranationalists dedicated to overthrow Japanese democracy by any means necessary. And they discussed a lot of historic beliefs that are pretty much BS. Now, these people were pretty weird, with their main purpose just to cause instability in Japan so Macadamia can take power according to their beliefs, and in whatever magazines they published, Macadamia admitted to crimes such as murder, arson, and terrorism, along with gruesome photos of their crimes that will put a lot of people to shame. Now, when police were investigating Macadamia, they interrogated DB Soft's CEO, Sadayuki Furuya, and he revealed to police that he had been sent a floppy disk of the game along with a photo of a woman from behind and a letter asking him to publish 177 and use the photo as the game's cover. Now, this outrage quickly died out, and Macadamia's attempts at quote-unquote psychological warfare failed to cause players to commit crimes and just this is all just weird as hell. Sad Satan. Sad Satan was a game that was released back in 2015 that was allegedly created by a dark web user named ZK. The game originally first made its presence via a YouTube channel named Obscure Horror Corner, which uploaded a 5-part gameplay series of the game. In the game, you as a character walk around hallway-like corridors while giving sort of like a Slendrina vibe. As you walk around the corridors, you begin to hear some pretty morbid audio and occasionally some weird random images would randomly flash on your screen. Further into the game, you come across this girl character just standing there doing nothing. That's basically the entire point of the game. There's just no plot, it's just nothing. Now, this is where stuff gets interesting. There is apparently 2 versions of the game. The first one was the one Obscure Horror Corner played, and then a later version popped up, apparently, which was basically the exact same thing. Only difference is that it contained, apparently, malware, and the images that suddenly flashed contained a lot of shit, from gore to demons, demonic shit, pedophiles, and most infamously, this obviously started a big discussion online, with even a subreddit being created to dissect the game and its meaning / where it came from, etc. Now, if you want to play this game today, first of all, What the actual fuck is wrong with you? Get help. Seriously, what the fuck? And secondly, you can't for very obvious reasons. And all of the other versions that are still out there are just clones of the originals, and some of them can contain malware. Now, there's so much that could be dissected here. Like, surprisingly, for a game that has literally nothing, there is a lot. I'm just scratching the surface here. Now, surprisingly, the same thing as the game Fun, there's like zero information about the game creators, neither Obscure Horror Corner or ZK, like almost nothing. And this game has just been an urban legend and an unsolved mystery with no explanation for anything. Rapelay. Rapelay was a Japanese game released back in 2006 by a studio named Illusion that generated mass controversy internationally for its very disturbing content. The game starts off with the main character, Masaya Kimura, being arrested for assaulting a woman. However, he is quickly released and decides to take revenge on the woman who reported him, 17-year-old Aoi, as well as her younger sister, 12-year-old Manaka, and their mother, 42-year-old Yuko. The game is sort of like a story mode type, kind of like Minecraft story mode, with it being mainly dialogue, but the interactive scenes just make this just more disgusting. He first talks 12-year-old Manaka until she boards a train, in which you as the character grope her by hovering the mouse over different parts of the girl. And after leaving the train, he stops Manaka in the bathroom and traps her and forces himself upon her. The following day, he does the same thing but with Yuko on a park. And the third day, he finds Aoi and shows her a picture of her mother tied up, and Aoi has no choice but to follow him. At which point, he had all three women captured and reveals his plans to make them his personal you-know-what. Now, the game had two endings, which both of them ends in, I guess, a good. Now, the game had two endings. The first one being which he impregnates either one of the girls, and a few days later, he is at the subway, and then he falls onto the train tracks and is killed by a moving train. And the second ending revolves in Aoi stabbing him and laughing after. Keep in mind, someone had to code the game, make the story, voice the characters, and do everything a game company does when they make a game. And this wasn't just a small indie developer, it was a big company very well known in Japan. Now, 3 years after the game was released, the controversy started, which is kind of absurd that it took this long, but basically, Keith Vaz, who was a former Minister of State in the United Kingdom, found out the game was being sold internationally on Amazon, and this subsequently led the game to being removed on Amazon. But it caught wind of the EOCS, which is basically the ESRB rating in Japan. They completely restricted the sale and production of the game, and later on, the game was banned in several other countries, including Japan. Now, what's very interesting is that some people online have said that how is these types of games repulsed and hated so much, but other games where the entire purpose is to mindlessly kill people more accepted? Which brings up a pretty good point. But it's two different sides with two different social standards that no one can really agree on. Now, the company Illusion removed every single reference of the game from its website and kept continuing making adult games for quite a while until 2023, where they announced it would be shutting down. Anyways, that concludes this entire list. I'm sorry if I just felt like I wasn't detailed enough or if I was just skimming through everything. I kind of was doing that, but then I was just way too lazy to do something about it. I could have made this video 100 times better. But anyways, thank you for watching until the end. That is if you're here. And please leave a like and please do what the big YouTubers always say. Subscribe and all that BS. Anyways, hopefully you enjoyed this video. And I'll see you, hopefully, in the next one.